The missing airliner for 25 years suddenly appeared in the barren mountain valley. And here's the weird thing. All passengers, all the crew members disappeared. But their belongings, it was all over the seat. Is it a supernatural phenomenon or a human conspiracy? Welcome to the latest science fiction release in 2025. Thriller, Project Prometheus. The heroine, Ella, is a journalist for a newspaper. To gather evidence of the crimes of bad companies, he and his partner went deep into the tiger's den. When taking a candid photo, he was accidentally noticed by the other cursed the bad life. Start the vehicle to run away as soon as possible. When passing through a curve, he rolled down the hill with his car and his men. Fortunately, Ella died, just a few skin injuries. But when he returned to the company with the evidence, the editor suddenly dropped the case. Asked Ella to end all investigations. The company didn't sue him for invasion of privacy. Already, thank goodness. Ella excitedly quarreled with the editor. The media should not compromise with any force. So he quit his job decisively. Decided to go it alone. Who knew he had just left the company? Ella was stopped by a man in a suit. He said he had a bizarre case on his hands. 10 times more important than investigating that bad company. Ella suddenly became interested. After finding a coffee shop and sitting down, the man introduced himself. His name was Reich. It's an agent from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. 1998. There is a flight 218 24 minutes after leaving the airport. Suddenly disappears from radar. There are no signs of a crash in the surrounding area. I didn't receive a ransom call from the kidnappers afterwards. It's like the plane just disappeared. Until yesterday, a woman suddenly received a call from her father. The other party is a passenger on the missing plane. After the police received the report, go to the phone booth as soon as possible. Although the missing father was not found, but in a nearby valley, Flight 218 has been missing for 24 years. It's just that all the passengers above have mysteriously disappeared. Ella thought it was a fantasy. Forgetting to show that you have important things to do. Men seem to know him well. Promise Ella that if this is investigated clearly, then that unscrupulous company, they will come forward to help settle. And here's what's even more important. List of passengers on the missing flight. It was written by Ella's mother herself. Unfortunately, the other party is being treated in a mental hospital. Ella fell silent. Said he would consider giving him an answer later in the day. When Ela went back, she specifically checked the missing flight. There are indeed relevant reports in the bed. There are various reasons for his disappearance. All kinds of guesses. Ella tried in a daze all night. The next day, I went to the mental hospital to find my mother. However, the other party ignored his inquiry. Just keep writing and drawing. Ella found out. Mother's painting. Same as the symbol on the missing passenger list. Is he insane? Also, related to the disappearance of the plane. Ella called the investigator immediately. Indicates that the delegation can be accepted. I need a few assistants. And access to all data. After the other party agrees, he first found his newspaper partner Wade. Promised big benefits. Finally, got him on the pirate ship. Through Ella, I found another friend who is working at the university. Fang is very knowledgeable in quantum mechanics. If the plane goes missing and appears not a paranormal event, the only explanation is time travel. Vicky is also very interested in this case. Promised to provide physical support at any time. Ella worked non-stop to find the missing person. Family, learn all about the phone calls he made with his father that day. Chang-Bai-haired woman confirms, this is definitely not a prank. Because of the voice on the phone, almost identical to his father. And the other party also said that only the little secret that only father and daughter knew. However, he did not mention the disappearance. Just say you just got off the plane. I need my daughter to send money for a ride. Completely lost the message after that. Ella's curiosity was aroused. He dialed the detective again. He expressed his willingness to see the crashed plane for himself. Wright is very efficient. A helicopter was arranged for the first time. The woman hasn't landed yet. I can see the big fuselage of the tree parked on the grass in the distance. The surrounding area has long been blocked by military soldiers. Only investigators from various departments are running back and forth. The person in charge of Fang said there is no radiation around the plane. No electromagnetic fluctuation. But the situation inside is very special. Wright has already applied for permission to enter. Ella and others put on protective suits. They quickly entered the aircraft. I saw the scattered objects on the table and chairs, and everybody was shocked. It feels like the passengers have disappeared in an instant. Ella was even more confused. Call the physics professor. Go, for help. He thinks this. It's beyond my comprehension. Why did the plane go missing years later? Will appear again inexplicable. Where did those passengers go? Ella speculates. Encountered aliens or space rifts. Vicky is also very interested in this. Indicates that the work at hand is arranged. Will come as soon as possible to participate in the investigation. Ella is a journalist. Extremely sharp thinking. Decided to start with the missing passenger. After comparing the personnel list, he soon noticed the anomaly. There are 5 seats on the list showing vacancies. But there are clearly personal belongings left on the chair. In other words, these 5 passengers took the plane, but the list was crossed out artificially. Ella fast before. To the archives, we found the names of 5 people in the original file. But the recordings from the plane crash, it was already taken away by the military. It will take some time to send it back. Just then, the physics professor showed up for the company. The group came to the front of the crashed flight again. Ella, according to the seat information, like a real summer vacation, state the names of the 5 passengers in turn. The answer to all questions. Most likely it's on them. That night, the military sent the plane missing. Recorded conversation with the tower beforehand. Because it has been sealed, the data inside is seriously corrupted. It has to be repaired one by one. But even so, from a few words, I also learned the general situation at that time. 20 minutes after flight 218 takes off, the captain felt a violent jolt in the plane. The meter shows no turbulence around. The captain informed the passengers to fasten their seatbelts. The next moment, the plane began to descend rapidly because the engine also stopped. The recording of the conversation came to an abrupt end. After a few minutes, disappeared without a trace on the radar. Afterwards, even the military participated in the search. Unfortunately, no wreckage was found. Ella felt things getting weirder. But I want to know more. It must wait for subsequent repairs. With the assistance of investigator Wright, the information of the 5 passengers who were crossed out soon appeared in Ella's hands. They are suspected of physics teacher who participated in terrorist attacks. A chief of a tribe is in a coma in the hospital. A psychology lecturer has a good reputation in the country. He's another veteran, currently working as an engineer at an energy company, and the last one is very special. Leaf was originally an archaeologist, also did a bachelor's degree in physics. However, he is currently receiving compulsory treatment in a medical institution because he is suspected of having the ability to hypnotize. Once under the guise of religion, 8 people have been induced to commit suicide. Ella thinks this person is the most suspicious. Under the leadership of Wright, he soon arrived at Lviv's medical facility. The doctor reminds the two, never talk to Levi too much. Otherwise, I don't know how I die. Ella felt her palms sweating. However, what he didn't expect was, Levi was more dangerous than the doctor had described. On the way to the medical facility, Lviv, who was heavily sedated. Sudden awakening, the guards were sweating profusely. Before he could speak, he directly knocked people unconscious. And Ella and the others here, still waiting for Levi's arrival. But I didn't want the main master to come in by himself. Turns out, he wasn't knocked out before, but hypnotized the guard in the car. Just a few words. Ella was possessed. Extremely cooperatively, he followed Levi into the ambulance. Fortunately, it didn't take long for him to regain his sense of self. Levi seems to know. Ella is investigating the plane. Offer to take him to a place. All the answers can be found there. Arrive at a gas station, list it as food, and let Ella wait. I saw him walking out of the car alone. Say a few words to a driver. The other party actually took the initiative to hand over the car. Ella was dumbfounded. Could the legendary hypnosis really exist? The two switched cars. It didn't take long to drive to an abandoned military base, and Lake in the hospital never waited for Ella. Run to the corridor and take a look. Found that the other party's mobile phone was thrown into the trash can. He realized that Ella had been abducted, so he immediately led someone to chase after her. Although Lviv changed cars halfway through, but Lake seemed to have guessed his destination. It's so easy to know where to park. And Levi, at this time, has brought Ella to the inside of the base. He was very familiar with this place. Open the cabinet door by yourself. Pulled out a strange suit from inside. After getting dressed, Lviv is preparing to start the instrument. Wright came here with the doctor. See Levi on the high platform. The doctor thought he was having a psychotic episode, so I took the initiative to go forward and plan for psychological reassurance. After 3 or 2 sentences, the doctor was instead listed as hypnotized. I saw his expression become dull. He turned around and jumped off the platform. Lita roared, "Tell Levi not to act rashly." Who knew that the latter said he would take Ella away? Because the passengers on the plane are still waiting for them to be rescued. After speaking, he jumped down with Ella. Unfortunately, in the end, nothing happened. If the rope connecting the vest is not strong enough, they were doomed. Lev was taken to an ambulance in a coma. Go, Professor, in a hurry. Which vest are you interested in? Decided to take it back and study it carefully. Pedestrians returned to the hospital. They brought in 3 passengers who had been erased. Except for the comatose chief. Everyone else is here. Ella, I thought they were replaced by... Who knew that it was only after the interrogation that all these people got on the plane? But they only remember falling asleep shortly after liftoff. After waking up, he went back to the waiting hall. Then a few men in black. And took them into a sealed room. After signing the non-disclosure agreement, they went free with big rewards. In the lab on the other side, Mage discovered the vest that Lvov is wearing is amazing. Looks compact. It's actually a scaled-down version of an energy transmitter, and many of these parts, he hadn't even heard of it. At the same time, partner Vader comes to the studio, ready to see the restoration of the recording. The staff resumed a new conversation. Just listen to the sound inside. No panicked expression. The next moment, she dialed Ella's number. Tell him to watch out for Wright. Because the other party's voice appeared in the recording, but I didn't wait for Ella to react. A sudden blaring low-frequency noise in the corridor. All the guards went out of business in an instant. Wright actually started that strange vest. Men before studying, when the Soviet Union left behind electromagnetic discovered that as long as a strong current is injected, surrounding magnetic there will be strange fluctuations in the space. He tried to put a cell phone and a white mouse in it. The moment the instrument starts, a strange scene happened. The phone doesn't move, but the white mouse disappeared. This is the latest sci-fi thriller released in 2025. Project Prometheus. The story follows the superior end. The heroine Ella was forced to calm Yinbo's headache. Misty to see investigator Wright. It wasn't affected in the slightest. Fortunately, the strange sound came and went quickly. Those who fell quickly returned to normal. It's just that my head is still a little dizzy. Ella thought it was right. I only found out after asking. It turned out that Vicky was working on the magic vest. Accidentally flipped a switch somewhere. This caused a huge amount of energy to spread out. But even so, Wright's still a little heavy. Why does energy dissipate easily? He will not be affected in any way. And my partner Wade also took a clip. Dialogue from the missing plane. The sound inside is compared through technology. Confirmed to be from Wright undoubtedly. Wright Chen Zhenlian finally confessed. All engines? It turned out to be among the passengers of the flight. Not only his fiancée, and parents, and friends. I was going to go with them. Before boarding the plane, he was called back to an emergency meeting. He swore he hadn't taken flight to 18. The voice on the recording is not his own. All 16 people who were in the meeting together at that time can testify. After the meeting, Wright got the news that the plane was missing. At first, he thought a military missile had crashed the airliner, so I used relationship investigation for many years. Never found any clues. When Wright was ready to give up, the missing flight miraculously appeared. He reignited the search. Family and fiancé's hope. It's just that the official means are too rigid, so Wright took a different approach. Find the passionate Ella to help. Ella's trio fell silent. I didn't expect the seemingly free and easy ride. I have to bear the pain of family separation all year round. Ella instinctively thought, Veiji's loss of contact has nothing to do with the strange vest. At that time, the powerful magnetic field feels like it's tearing people apart. Physicists stand around and light up. This is a miniature particle accelerator. When he checked the flight route before, he found that the missing plane passed through a Neskian fault. It is a fault structure formed during the movement of the Earth's crust. Often creates a chaotic magnetic field around the periphery. Maybe that's why the plane went missing. The next moment, Vicky found his mentor. The other side once led the team into fault investigation. We know where Vicky wants to go to get the data. The instructor nodded in agreement without hesitation. Even the dusty equipment was taken out. But the roads there are not easy to walk. The average off-road vehicle may be difficult to pass. Veiji smiled implicitly. Next moment, and they arrived at the top of the fault by helicopter. Under the guidance of a mentor, Mage and Wade crawled down the road. In order to avoid strong magnetic fields interfering with, they wore flat ground helmets in advance. Turn on the flashlight for the two of them. Their eyes widened in unison. I saw many strange patterns carved on the stone wall. The instructor really sees it. He said they were thousands of years old. This should be a cave inhabited by indigenous tribes more than 100 years ago, due to geological movements. Let's rebuild this buried cave, Tien Roeki exclaimed. While debugging the instruments used to collect data, he also checked a lot of information before coming. Legend has it that this is the center of the intersection with the universe, although it has not been scientifically proven. But since the crash of Flight 218, the country rerouted its flights. After no more planes pass over here. The old professor nodded in agreement. After all, the lens of science is theology. At this time, they ran around to interrupt the conversation between the meter shows that there is no magnetic field signal here. Vicky explained that only the crust vibrates. Significant magnetic field changes occur. The voice just fell. The instrument suddenly made a slight beep. Even the iron lid of the water glass began to shake. I don't want Vicky to take a good look. As a result, the lid of the cup flew out. Several people present instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Such intense magnetic fluctuations, no wonder the plane above is fine. When Ella heard the news, she fell into deep thought. He remembered to urge. It is introduced in the information that the sleeping room is the other party has been studying space physics. They've even suggested that there are biological fields associated with certain particles in space. However, this theory has been dismissed by many as pseudoscience. Ella resists fatigue. Continue to look for clues in the mountain of data. Early the next morning, he couldn't wait to find Wright. In Levi's interrogation materials, he has mentioned many times Prometheus. Wright's expression became solemn. It turns out that during the Cold War, in the case of the former Soviet Union, a large number research institute, Project Prometheus was one of them. Mainly focuses on research in the field of space. And the hypnotist, Levi, one of the members of the project team. Unfortunately, the authority of Wright at that time was not enough. Has been paid to the details. Ella said it might have something to do with the plane's disappearance. He offered to go to the Secret Service archives. See if you can find relevant information. And Ella here is not idle either. He found Lviv at the medical facility. Want to know the inside story of Project Prometheus. But Lviv said he was not involved in the project. It was another Levy. That strange vest was also given to him by the other party. Said to be able to travel to another space, rescue passengers. In fact, he doesn't know the specific usage. That's why there are accidents in abandoned factories. In addition to that, Ella also learned from Lviv. His mother was also a member of Project Prometheus. But because she was pregnant, she took the initiative to quit. Just then, Ella gets a call from Wright. He found a lot of important information at the Secret Service. One of the reports detailed the origin of Project Prometheus. Former Soviet scientists were Siberia has discovered a magical region. Time flows 10 times faster here than outside. Ordinary bees can only survive in it for 3 days. The lifespan of a mouse is 6 months. To study this phenomenon, the Soviet Union created Project Prometheus, and they built large laboratories in the area. Unfortunately, it didn't take long for the Soviet Union. The project was also forced to be terminated. However, it is even more coincidental that Flight 218 disappeared over the institute. Ella immediately expressed, "I want to go there." Wright suddenly looked embarrassed. That area has long been acquired by commercial companies. He can't guarantee whether he can get in or not. That's when Ella gets a call from Go. He and his mentor made an important discovery while researching the vest. As long as enough current is injected, and the space around it becomes disordered. This is one of the harbingers of space travel. To verify my guess, the instructor turned the vest into a skimmer. He tried to put the key in it. After starting current, the key disappeared out of thin air. And they ran about 10 more trials. A couple of times they failed. Mentor discovered what wasn't sent away. The surface has this strange bioelectricity. Like the positive and negative poles of a magnet. It will be sent away when it is positive. The negative electrode will be left behind. This could be the plane passenger. The reason for the inexplicable disappearance. And the 5 passengers who stayed behind. It may be that the body surface carries special bioelectricity. To verify this speculation, the instructor wants to go to the hospital to see the unconscious chief. Because of each other, it was one of the 5 people who were not teleported away. That's when Ella gets a call from Wright. He has been admitted to visit the institute. Pedestrians are divided into 2 master and apprentice. Take Wade to the hospital. Ella followed Wright to the abandoned research institute. This place has long been occupied by a consortium acquisition. It has now been converted into a perfume processing factory. Equipment left over from the previous research was also dismantled by official scientific research. Lake and Ella turned the factory around. I really can't find the shadow of the research institute. However, on the 3rd floor of the base, they found a large area. The person in charge told the 2 that this place has not been developed yet. No one is allowed to enter. Ella and Wright are close-minded people. Decide that the factory has something to hide from you. But if you apply for a search warrant, it is very likely to scare the snake. And the 3 Go players here are much smoother. Soon after arriving at the hospital, the sheik was met with a serious illness. Preparing for testing, the chief's granddaughter, Ma Ling, suddenly appeared. Nothing to hide. State the purpose of this trip one by one. Ma Ling's face changed greatly after hearing Grandpa is in a coma. It was because of the plane crash that year. Although the sheik did not disappear with the plane, but when I came back, I was so crazy. And he got sicker and sicker. The family took the chief to the hospital. Checked inside and out. But found no problem. But it didn't take long. The chief fell into a complete coma. During this period, he would occasionally wake up several times. If someone comes to investigate the plane crash, be sure to use tribal witchcraft. Let them see the information in their own minds. The premise is that 4 people are also present. I learned that the old chief made arrangements in advance. Ella guesses that the other party must know something inside. He asked Wright to take Lviv and the 4 to the hospital. However, at the time of transfer, veterans thought they were going to be secretly executed. So he took the opportunity to take the agent's pistol. Just as both sides were on fire, Veteran and Levi were tragically shot dead. Ella was very helpless when she heard the news. In order for tribal ceremonies to take place normally, Ella and Vicky decide to fill the void between the 2 deceased. Marlene, as requested, begins setting up the circle in the room. I didn't forget to tell Ella during the period. No matter what you see, you have to stay calm. If you get lost in another world, then never come back. With a vague spell uttered, Ella just feels drowsy. In a trance, he seemed to have come to another space. In the open space ahead stood a group of men and women. Among them was the old chief. And in the 3rd basement floor of the perfume processing plant, the staff pushed open a huge iron gate. It turns out that research in space has continued. So where did the missing passenger go? This terrifying space experiment. What are the consequences? Scientists are really screwed this time. They were conducting space experiments. Inadvertently opened a space crack, any object in front of him, like cheese slashed with a scalpel. The incision is flat and cannot afford the slightest Welcome to continue watching Phase 3 of Project Prometheus. The story ends immediately after the superior, Ella, was summoned to another dimension by tribal rituals. When meeting a tribal chief, he got important information from the other party. Ella wants to ask more. It's a pity that the ceremony time has come. He told everyone about his dream experience. To learn that their loved ones are still alive. Right, Juandi's heart was finally put down, and the chief's granddaughter was even more curious. What was that place like? Elders on the way called him the edge of hell. Ella nodded in approval. The images he experienced were both illusory and real. It feels like a projection imprinted in the brain. 2 people talking. Quipping has arrived in the center of Lake Bike because it is recorded in the archives. Over 40 years ago, there have also been bizarre disappearances here. A fishing boat with 7 crew members mysteriously disappeared. It caused quite a stir at the time. After some villagers saw a flash of light with their own eyes, the fishing boat invited guests to sink to the bottom of the sea. Rescuers salvaged for several days, except for the debris of the fishing boat that surfaced. They didn't find a body. The teacher checked the weather conditions at the time of the incident, and there were no storms. The disappearance of Flight 218. It's very similar to the location of the 2 incidents. 108,000 miles apart. Ella didn't understand the connection for a moment. It's getting late. The group decided to camp by the lake for the night. At this moment, Ella suddenly received a call from the hospital. It turned out that his mother's ward was on fire just now. He's now in intensive care. Ella woke up early. Take the first flight. Arrive in the city where the mother is located. Rushed to the hospital. That his life was not in danger. That's why I often lose my breath. However, his investigation in Lake Bike was also delayed. Ella thought it was too strange, because the monitoring of the hospital also failed. Finally, retrieved the camera of the shopping mall next door. Only then did I learn that someone deliberately set the fire. So he found Lake the first time. Tell each other their inner unease. Since the investigation into the Flight 218 incident began, he faintly felt that he was being targeted. In fact, Ella's guess was not wrong. The official planning of this arson case. The owner of a perfume factory, co-driver, did this, just trying to distract Ella. Presumably the disappearance of Flight 218 has nothing to do with this boss. The so-called big things are informal. The driver actually asked the assistant next to him to see his wife, to approach the male member next to Ella. And here Ella leaves the hospital. Then he and Wade went to the perfume factory again. During the last investigation, he found that there was still a hidden space in the basement. This time, Ella decided to take a good look. 2 people disguised successfully. People get on the bus to the perfume factory. After successfully entering the factory, Ella lit a fire under the seat. Take advantage of the chaos to successfully infiltrate the office. The 2 men crossed several aisles, non-stop. They smooth access to the underground space that was not explored last time. 2 people just separated. Ella saw a huge instrument. He's about to shoot with his cell phone, but was discovered by the security guard below. Now, it's too late for Ella to run. Wade, hiding in the back, still wants to help. Ella quickly stopped with her eyes. Arrival security. Afterwards, he immediately identified himself as a reporter. But the head of security doesn't know this at all. Ella realizes that people here are very cold-blooded, so I found an opportunity to escape. The next moment, he was knocked unconscious on the ground. In his confusion, he found himself tied to the bed. A nurse kept injecting him with drugs. Ella just has a splitting headache. It seems to sense that someone is experimenting in the basement. Just then, the door to the room was pushed open. Wright rushed in with a few of his men. It turned out that Wade followed the advice. I didn't have the urge to go to Ella's rescue, but quietly escaped from the factory. Find Wright as soon as possible to tip off. At this point, he doesn't care about any search warrants. Bring people directly into the factory to save people. The person in charge of the factory rushed to the scene with a flat face and the others to give themselves an explanation. A few glasses of water. Ella seems to have recovered a lot. Ask the person in charge what that huge instrument is. The momentum of the person in charge immediately explained that he used it to extract perfume. Due to the relatively high environmental requirements, so I didn't take 2 people to visit before. But how could such a statement deceive Ella and the others? When both parties see the target anger chapter, the boss and the assistant driver's secretary started to smooth things over on the grounds of trade secrets. As long as Ella and others leave, he can pretend that nothing happened. Wright is about to refuse, but suddenly received a call from the superior. The other party roared and demanded that he leave immediately. He can only lead the crowd back home. Just got back to the lab. Go has brought good news. The vest's remodeled iron box can not only transfer metal, not even the living things. And he puts his hand in the box. Machine and a white mouse. Just start the switch and press it. A flash of white light. The phone is still in place, but the white mouse disappeared. Vicky affirms the disappearance of passengers on Flight 218. It must be a vest-like device. Ella thought of the giant instrument of the perfume factory. Could it be that when the flight passed over the factory, they happened to be conducting space experiments with instruments? Vicky thinks it's very likely. And the 5 passengers who didn't disappear, due to the special bioelectricity on the body, just provides a solid support point for space teleportation. All kinds of coincidences add up. That killed Flight 218. Just as everyone is discussing with each other, Thirsty Wade wanted to fetch some water. Suddenly I realized that something was wrong in the aisle ahead. Push open the door, and a crack scattering bright light appeared before his eyes. Although the beams of light soon dissipate, but the damage he did to the building, but it's real. The media tried to give a professional explanation. It must be their energy wing in the lab. Ripped open the space crack. The corgis and fishing boats that died probably encountered the same situation. Then came another piece of news. A 6-story house located in the suburbs, cut in half by a strange force. The top half disappears out of thin air. It also feels like it was caused by a crack in space. Learned that the incident happened just 2 days ago. Lyra remembers. I was in a perfume factory at that time. Just happened to see someone activate that instrument. Was this accident also caused by a space experiment? In order to validate the idea in mind, Ella and her team rushed to the scene to investigate. The person in charge said that the accident left 75 people missing. They've sent the military to seal off the perimeter. Avoid news leaks that cause panic. But fortunately, there was another survivor in the building. The other party was just injured and was not sent away. Ella rushed to the hospital, looking at the woman on the hospital bed with an arm missing. His heart is also inexplicably starved. After repeated inquiries, I finally figured out what happened. Women detect something wrong a week ago. Birds in the sky stay away for no reason. Instead, there were crows flying around. And the people who live here also feel inexplicable dizziness. Until 2 days ago, a white light suddenly flashed in the sky. People hide in houses in fear. When bending over to pick up the remote control, he felt a pain in his arm. After waking up, I found that one of my arms had disappeared. If the body is tilted a little higher, maybe the whole person is split in two. Now Ella is more sure. The building accident must be related to space experiments, and Go and others on the other side. Then collect magnetic field data at the scene of the accident. A close-up view of the devastated building. It feels like being bladed by a sharp blade. Wait until the data is collected. Mitch discovered the magnetic signature of the surrounding area. Space rift created in their laboratory. Extremely similar. This also confirms Ella's conjecture from the side, but soon they fell into a new mystery. It's not too far from the perfume factory. Is the location of the space crack random? And where did the residents who disappeared go? To find out the truth, Ella finds the chief's granddaughter, Ma Ling, decided to have another tribal ritual. Everything is ready. With a slight chant, Ella just felt a blur in front of her eyes. The next moment, I came to that mysterious space. This time, I'm well prepared. Ella quickly found the chief and asked his doubts. Unfortunately, the time is still too short. He only knew part of the truth. Awakened Ella wants to do it again. The ceremony was rejected by Ma Ling. Too many rituals can cause permanent damage to the brain. Ela heard this and had to give up. However, it will still be information obtained was shared with Vicky. Chief, space, crack. It was caused by the equipment in the perfume factory. And the factory manager, the code driver, is implementing a grand plan. This behavior has the potential to cause spatial disturbances. Then the whole world will be affected. And the code driver here learned from the assistant. Tara's experiment can make living things disappear. There was a look of indignation on his face immediately. Own the most complete equipment. And researchers, now it can only teleport metal items. Code driver guessed the crux of the matter is that amazing vest. In this game of Go did not disappoint. He put a white rat in his vest, inside the remodeled iron box. However, after activating the switch, the mice didn't disappear. Vader was accidentally bitten when he took it out. Sister May immediately showed a surprised look. Before, he deliberately ground the mouse's teeth flat. I can't think of an experiment. The mouse has already grown 3 teeth. Looking at it, I rode a horse for 10 days. Vicky immediately broke the news to Ella. Vest remodeled iron box can actually change the flow of time. He speculated that it might be the mouse in the box, being in 2 planes at the same time, like beams of light on glass. Both reflected and passed through the glass. It is concluded from the experimental cracks. It's a channel that connects to parallel spaces. As he prepared for further verification, a car is parked in front of the laboratory. The man in the car said nothing. Just take out the gun and kill the guard. Presumably, the owner of the perfume factory sent someone to snatch the vest. Whether others can keep their research results, those passengers who are teleported to a space, can it be rescued? This man has the ability to travel through space. But what he never expected was, time travel is not 100% successful. In the event of failure, it will bring irreversible disaster to the world. Welcome to continue watching the 4th phase of Project Prometheus. The story follows the superior plot. A Go professor, experimenting, heard gunshots outside. He guessed that someone had come to snatch the experimental equipment. So hurry up and pack your things. Sneak out the back door with Wade. But just ran out not far. He was blocked by men in black, squatting in the dark. The little boss triumphantly grabbed the handheld of Go. Open the box and take a look. It actually contained a fire extinguisher. It turns out that the 2 of them are just bait to attract attention. Really important experimental equipment. It was already taken by the mentor to move to another place. Little boss feels humiliated. When I was about to take a shot to get to know the two, a light pierces the darkness. Vicky took the opportunity to cut off a man in black. The two sides were locked in a brief standoff. At this time, the boss and deputy driver behind the scenes told Vicky to lay down his weapon. In fact, the two sides can have a good talk. When Wright and the others got the news and arrived, the lab was empty. Fell to the ground except for blood. No body was found. It means that Vicky and Vader are still alive. Ella was depressed. He had already reminded Brett, your team is being targeted. And here it is. Suddenly, the phone in his pocket rang. It turned out to be the factory owner who helped the driver call. He said that both of them were in his own hands. If you want to rescue each other, then come to the perfume factory alone. Ella was originally holding the mentality of Hong Mai-yan to the appointment, but the attitude of the factory is unpredictable. The person in charge, DeFang, was guarding the door early, and the boss and co-driver behind the scenes are even more sincere. It seems to admit that he is researching space experiments. If Ella would listen, he can reveal all the engines. It's a good thing to know. Ella involuntarily walked into the secret conference room. The co-driver's language is not amazing. Direct representation. Neither he nor Wright were of this world. They all come from another parallel universe. Ella remembered that Wright hadn't received a vest before. Effective magnetic field. I can't help but believe it. Then I heard the co-driver start talking. Talk about past experiences. These years, his team has been working on space travel technology. Unfortunately, no real progress can be made. Project Promise. Many years ago, he and Wright are just organizers. And the real technical leader, it's actually the dead Levi. That amazing vest. That's him, in the lab. Accidentally opened the space channel. A gift from Levi of another world. Compared to the world Ella lives in, the technology over there is more than one level advanced, but the identity of the characters is similar. Right in parallel worlds. Also, a powerful investigator. A car accident took the life of his wife and children. Right in pain. It was Project Prometheus. He sneaks into Ella's world. I plan to bring my wife and children here to my parallel. The world is two parallel worlds. Strict laws of balance must be followed. The circulation of anything may cause chaos in space. To stop Wright from messing around, Fusky also followed each other into this world. It's just that neither of them thought of it. Because of the collapse of the Soviet Union, Promise was forced to end. They lost their way home. Both have been secretly researching space technology for years. But because the chief engineer, Levi, is insane, their research progress has been stagnant. Flight 218. It was caused by a failed experiment. The previous shipwreck on Lake Bike and the recent lockdown incident. Fusky asked Ella's team, make sure to clarify the experimental procedure so he can go back to his own world. Ella's eyes were full of distrust. Apparently, I can only believe half of Fusky's words. While the two were talking, Fusky's assistant, take Wade to the infirmary to treat the wound. Under his intense offensive, the two quickly rolled together. This part is not good. Archie will help you pinch it off first. Don't think it's a pie from the sky. But what he doesn't know is, this assistant is actually Fusky's wife. His real age is already in his 60s. Just Fusky from parallel worlds. They introduced a stem cell technology to keep him young forever. This is also where Yeva is willing to abuse herself. Also, obey Fusky's orders. Reasons to stick with Ella's team. When the two get together, the co-driver took Ella to a lab. He said he closed a deal with Wright the other day. The co-driver used the notes left by Levi in exchange for the surviving passengers of Flight 218. Parallel universe entry points on notes. Great help to Vicky. And the co-driver wants to take advantage of the surviving passengers. Recreates a scene of the disappearance of Flight 2. Then Fusky handed Ella another report. It records the cellular information of him and his mother. Shocking. The test results of the two people are exactly the same. Something came to Ella's mind. As if it were your own destiny, manipulated by some force. In the cubicle, in the lounge, Ella finally meets her captured companion. Although the two were a little embarrassed, but it doesn't seem to be a big deal. The group returned to the town. Wright is still trying to save people. Wide-eyed. He didn't expect Fusky to be so talkative. Would choose to take the initiative to let go. Vicky was a little pissed. Do you still want him to kill us? Although Wright has doubts, but still gave Vicky the handwriting of the husband. Hope he can crack the principle of the experiment soon. Ella's heart was filled with doubt. It seems that the co-driver did not lie. And here's Wright. Seems to have sensed something wrong. He actually took the initiative to meet the co-driver. The two were once friends and colleagues. It's just that the attitude towards things today is very different. Wright has been in this world for decades. I have gradually adapted to my current life. He feels like he's just dying of old age. Wonderful things in the world. It would be better if the wife and children were around. The co-driver had the opposite attitude. In order to achieve their goals, even if it is to destroy the world, Wright persuaded him to let go of his past ideas. But the result is the same as the previous few times. It ended in failure. And Ella here also felt the rain coming. He decided to take the team to another location to continue the research. But just as everyone was about to pack and run away, the town was suddenly blocked by a large number of soldiers. They used the flu outbreak as an excuse, forced control of the entire area. Unexpectedly, the co-driver actually used military connections, completely cut off Ella's escape route. He and his partner can only stay at the Hotel Zambitrend. That night, Wright came to the door. He guessed that Ella already knew a lot of the truth. I plan to talk to the other party from the Kesson Cloth Palace. He admits that the Fox technology is real. I really want to take advantage of this technology. Bring back Jir from another parallel universe. However, what Wright said next, but it surprised Ella. Opposed at first, Prometheus didn't plan the co-driver. It was Wright. The first space experiment. They tore open the space. The turbulence caused the two trains to collide. Hundreds of people died as a result. Afterwards, Wright proposed to terminate the experiment, but the co-driver insisted on continuing. They believe that this technology can change the fate of nations. Ultimately, the co-driver received the support of the committee. Wright was forced to compromise. In fact, the co-driver's insistence is not for the country, but an unknown conspiracy is hidden. When Wright and his apprentices investigated, but was inexplicably transferred from the project. No more access to any experimental data. This is also how he found Ella to investigate the reason for the implementation of the flight. After listening to Wright's explanation, Ella finally understands the ins and outs of the matter, but his heart, they're not convinced. However, just as the two were talking, a group of mysterious people suddenly broke into the hotel. Wright reacted quickly when he heard the gunshots. When planning to evacuate with Ella, just happened to meet the killer in ambush in the aisle. The two sides engaged in a fierce battle. Wright was accidentally shot. The killer was going after Ella. The unarrived companion stops. Their goal has been achieved. There's no need for out-of-season promotion. When the killers left the scene, Wright was on the verge of death. Before he died, he said something strange to Wright. It stands to reason that the death of an official of this level to cause a sensation, but the attitude of the police is perfunctory. So the co-driver's interpretation is no small matter. And what upset Ella even more was physicist. The media was also taken away by the killers. He's going to talk to the co-driver again. However, this encounter, the other party's attitude was much colder. For no other reason, the most important thing in Ella's team is the experimental design. Ready and go. Now they are all in the hands of the co-driver. Naturally, you don't have to rely on anyone. Ella says go won't give in. Besides, he can also reveal he used the cruelty of experimenting on people. The latter slapped the table angrily. Remind Ella, can live until now. It's already the result of my own kindness. I didn't recognize the format clearly. Hurriedly dragged Ella away from the door. On the way back, I have no suggestion whether to expose it online or not. Co-driver's black stuff. Ella shook her head in frustration. He had heard Wright say it before. The defense minister's son has leukemia. The co-driver uses parallel. The world's advanced technology cures each other. Now the two are good enough to wear a pair of pants. It's useless for them to report anyone. The co-driver at this time has come to the front of being caught and waiting for Go. He said it had state-of-the-art equipment and a lot of information. I hope Go can help continue the space experiment. If this research is successful, then he is a scientist. Enough to make a name for itself in the history of physics. The last sentence completely moved Go. The next moment, I followed Fusky to the underground laboratory. After referring to various data, he pointed directly to the reasons why the other party could not succeed. Such a large instrument. I want to realize the space crossing of fixed-point teaching. The energy required must be nuclear bomb grade. The co-driver nodded without changing his face. Indicates that it can meet any requirements for it. But inside, he was overjoyed. That crazy plan can finally be implemented. What exactly is the co-driver planning? His behavior, what kind of disaster will it bring to the world? A plane full of passengers encountered a time rift. It ended up accidentally opening up a parallel universe. Welcome to 2025. Science fiction thriller, the conclusion of Project Prometheus. At the same time, the plot originated from a group in another parallel world. Boss finally got the physicist. Help yourself with space experiments. Even if the latter proposes, the energy required is nuclear bomb grade. Co-driver nodded and agreed without hesitation. And here's Ella. Despite the loss of experimental equipment and Professor V, but he still gave up his determination to fight against Visky because the passengers on the plane are most likely still alive. It was the tribal leader's wish to free them. It is also the minimum conscience of Ella as a journalist. He thought of a key breakthrough. That's Fusky's assistant and wife, Med had a dewy love affair with him. So I know a lot of things. Yova's husband in this century died long ago. He was with a Fusky from another century. It's really just a partnership. The other party provides the technology of eternal youth. Yova helped him deal with the thorns that couldn't reach the table. Hand matter. So there's a lot of things we don't know. It turns out that the crash of Flight 218 had another engine. At that time, Wright wanted to take his wife and children to parallel worlds. Tribal chiefs use magical abilities, encountered this conspiracy beforehand, so he took the initiative to board the plane at risk. I wanted to stop this disaster. But he overestimated his abilities, although due to special constitution, avoided the fate of being but it also took a toll. Lying in a hospital bed all day can't go anywhere. He can only entrust the task of saving people to Ella. Ella heard here. I feel the weight on my shoulders is heavier. He tried to pull Eva into his camp. If the co-driver continues to study space experiments, this will implicate more innocent people. Even if he succeeds, he returns to his own world. Eva certainly can't follow. There was no stem cell technology. He will also recover. Old Pearl Yellow. These few words succeeded in convincing Eva. The next moment, he brought Ella and the two of them in. Perfume factory. Under a powerful money offensive, Eva bribed the head of the factory. Big Fat successfully rescued several surviving passengers from captivity. Soon after, Vicky was also whisked out by Eva. It turned out that he had promised to help the driver continue the experiment. It's just a delaying tactic. The purpose of Ella's trip is to rescue them from the den of thieves. There are already arranged vehicles waiting outside the factory as long as they make it to the airport. Then you can stay away from the influence of the co-driver. But they just boarded the plane. The co-driver's men chased after him. Eva realized that the poetry was revealed. Just walk straight forward. Facing the husband of another century, Mosky was expressionless the whole time. Pull out the pistol and pull the trigger directly, as if the dead had nothing to do with him. Fortunately, Ella and the private jet has successfully taken off. After a night of running around, they arrived in Moscow, a suburban villa. This is also the hiding place arranged by people sitting around, thinking about how to pick up the crime of the co-driver, but he and the powerful Secretary of Defense, very close, and Ella's group, they are also the powerless people at the bottom. Try Vicky to reveal another explosion. The scientific research project of Huth has been slow to succeed. The problem isn't the experiment. The key lies in the little vest that Levi left behind. There's an energy controller on it, able to accurately locate spatial coordinates and time cuts. When Indovich left the lab, controller on vest, already mounted on a very large particle accelerator. Now as long as you adjust enough energy, their experiment is sure to succeed. In addition to that, while studying the notes left by Levi, presumed passenger consciousness on Flight 218 all stay in the space crack because of their bodies has traveled to another world, occupied by the original consciousness over there. The co-driver turns on the superpowered experimental equipment, and the crack is likely to be due to space fluctuations or shattered. The 200 passengers inside will be completely wiped out. It may even affect space stability between two worlds. When Hila heard this, she immediately made up her mind. No matter what, the co-driver space has to be blocked. Experiments can be weak. How do you do that? Ella thought of the chief's wonder. Can let one's consciousness enter the rift in time and space. Then he can use it as a medium to go back in time. Just convince the chief engineer, Lviv, to give up the experiment. Then all the subsequent troubles can disappear. There are still some worries about going back to the past. In this case, it can change the future. But there is another way of saying it, that fate cannot be changed. There's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen. Each possibility generates a new parallel world. In its current form, it's hopelessly bad. Since scientific means are irreversible, maybe a miracle can happen at the chief's ceremony. Occasionally, the lens of science has to be theology. After making up your mind, Ella immediately organized the manpower to deal with the shortage. As the mysterious flame slowly burns, he only felt his consciousness begin to gradually blur. The next moment, he was in the crack of space. Under the guidance of the old chief, Ella manages to cross over to the day before the plane crash. Many familiar faces appeared before his eyes. In 5, including the old chief and Levi. Survivor. When Ella looks at herself through the glass, the image shows the mother's figure. It was only then that he remembered that he had just crossed over for a while. No wonder my mother's name is on the passenger list. And Lake, also one of the survivors of the crashed flight. Just as Ella was about to ascend the throne, the figure of the villain Wright flashed away. And in the real world, Go and others are not idle. After investigation, the co-driver is in the basement of a nuclear power plant somewhere, assembling a particle accelerator. Presumably, the other party will restart the experiment here. And Vicky had an idea. It's going to take advantage of the principle of pairs of atoms, the energy generated by the device. Keep it simple. Nuclear explosions against nuclear explosions. The two of them disguised themselves as staff. Smooth infiltration into the nuclear power plant. Not long after, he tested the data in the nuclear reactor. Now, just wait for Foschini to activate the instrument. Vicky immediately launched the atomic hedge. His only concern was that the plan had succeeded. Ella is most likely trapped in the past and unable to return. In Flight 218, in the parallel world, it has successfully lifted off at this time. Ella couldn't wait to find Levi. It directly means that you will disrupt the order of time and space by causing two parallel universes to collapse simultaneously. To enhance credibility, he also gave all the details of the operation. But Lviv didn't listen at all. Went into the toilet with a suitcase. As Ella prepares to continue her persuasion, a man suddenly stepped forward. Indicates that someone wants to meet him. Ella walked curiously to the first-class cabin. The next moment, I saw my old acquaintance Wright, but he was even more surprised. Ella remembered a scene in the hotel earlier. Wright said the same thing before he died. Is the man in front of you also from the future? Wright says every choice in the past will create a parallel universe. There have been many Ella who have come back to this plane thinking, stop Lviv from conducting experiments. But in the end, it all ended in failure. This flight, 218, destined to be transported to a parallel world, and Ella's mother had a nervous breakdown. It is the result of enduring Ella's consciousness many times. But Ella didn't dare to believe Wright's words. His presence must have other purposes. And Levi in the bathroom. The magic vest has been worn on the body. It's almost time. He quietly activated the instrument switch. The next moment, the pilot noticed that the plane was abnormal. The chief is also chanting a spell to try to stop. Ella, feeling the turbulence, suddenly recalled. He's done some research before. Wright is not on the passenger list. That is to say, the man in front of me is just a shadow formed by thoughts. He tried to wave his arm. Wright and a few followers disappeared in an instant. In the real world at this time, Vicky finally waited until the co-driver activated the experimental instrument. He was about to do an atomic hedge. The co-driver actually rushed over with his subordinates. The old fox knew that Vicky was familiar with the equipment, so they coerced him into completing the next experiment. Take the opportunity to increase the power, using the energy of the outer wing to stun his men. Unfortunately, it still failed to prevent the space device from starting. The co-driver seems to have been waiting for this moment for a long time. The space channel in front of him take shape. He knew it was time to return to his own world. And Layla on the plane realized he still couldn't stop the spatial rift. He passed Wright's son, tried to persuade the other person to let go of their obsession. Even if successful, I can't let my dead wife and children possess me. Key Lake's obsession is terrifying. Insist on going dark on a road. The light around is getting stronger. The entire plane instantly disappeared into the spatial rift. It's a pity that Ella still can't change the past this time. However, in another parallel world, Flight 218 landed successfully. Wright is finally reunited with his wife and children. All passengers returned to their original lives. Ella, who is not on the plane. There is also a happy family here. The mother is not only not mentally ill and very much in love with my father, and people like Wedge and Wade also have their own lives. They have no intersection whatsoever. Until this day, they were taken to the secret conference room at the same time. Wright produced a report. Offer a generous reward. Invite 3 people to 1. Aim to study. The Prometheus project of the supernatural. It looks like a new round of space experiments is about to begin. It's just a few decades late. This is the whole Prometheus project. Content. I have to say that the brainhole of this drama is still very big. It's just that the final outcome is a little hard to accept. The whole play revolves around a single purpose. Past and future. It won't change because of any external force. Even if Lake uses extraordinary means to reunite with his family, presumably it will end in tragedy. Pity he was the first to propose the law of invariance in the future, but I'm so caught up in it that I don't know it. Okay, that's it for today. Friends who have different opinions, you can leave a message in the comment area to discuss. See you next time.